Hey there, it's Hillary, and today I'm going to be doing my May wrap-up. For the month of May, I read and listened to 8 books / audiobooks. I listened to 2 audiobooks, read a couple ebooks, and read some physical books. We're going to get right into it, and I'll show you guys what I read in the order of reading. So the first thing that I was reading and listening to 2 at the same time. I was listening to Wonder Woman Warbringer, and I was reading Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo at the beginning of the month. I finished those 2 very close together. I was listening to Wonder Woman when I couldn't be reading, and then I was reading Shadow and Bone. I really enjoyed both of those, and I thought it was really interesting because I was actually listening to and reading 2 Leigh Bardugo books at the same time. So I feel like her writing style is one that's so interesting. She is so descriptive in her writing, and the 2 stories that she was telling were pretty different. Like, they're both fantasy, but you have Wonder Woman over here who's like a very well-known character, and she really doesn't have as much creative leeway with what she's telling because Wonder Woman is something that's already out there in the world. This is Wonder Woman. Whereas with her Grisha trilogy, she can do whatever she wants with that. And I think she did a great job telling both stories. I really enjoyed it. I think I gave Wonder Woman 4 stars, and I gave the Grisha trilogy 4 stars as well. I'm planning on continuing reading the series in the month of June, and I'm hoping that I continue enjoying the series, and hopefully eventually I'll be able to read the Six of Crows duology as well, since it's also in the Grisha universe. The next book that I read for the month of May was The Road. I did a book review for The Road. I gave The Road 3 stars. I did like a whole big thing about talking about The Road. I'll link the video for The Road down below. It really was a hard story to read. I guess it has like some positive aspects to it, but I felt like most of it was really depressing and negative. But like I said, I did a whole video review on The Road, so if you're curious about what I think about it, click on that video and give it a watch, and you'll see everything that I thought about the book. The next book that I read was The Trials of Apollo. I am planning on listening to the next one on audiobook. I have it on hold from my local library. I'm just waiting to actually get it, and then when I get to the 3rd one, I guess I'll cross that bridge when I come to it, because my local library doesn't have the 3rd one yet because the 3rd one is fairly new. So if I get to the 3rd one, then I might go ahead and buy it. This one is Scholastic Edition, so I didn't pay very much for this one, so I might have to keep my eye out in the Scholastic catalog for the 2nd and 3rd one, because I only own the 1st one, which is why I'm planning on listening to the audiobook for the 2nd one. But I really enjoyed it. I gave it 5 stars. I loved that we were getting back into the Percy Jackson universe. I just love Rick Riordan. He's so awesome. Such a good writer. Even though his books are middle grade, I just love them. I think they're amazing. I love that this story was told from the perspective of a god, and he is such a funny one. I always love when we get to see Apollo in all of the other Percy Jackson books, because he's just such a funny character. So to have a whole story told from his perspective was just really awesome. I loved the character growth in him throughout the story, and I can't wait to see how much more he grows as a character through the next 2 books, because I imagine it's going to be a lot. I cannot wait to read the next ones of those, so when I finally get the chance to listen to the 2nd one from the library, I'm going to be so excited. I felt like I really enjoyed everything I read this month. I mean, other than The Road, but I didn't even hate The Road. I gave it 3 stars, so it was okay, but I didn't even really hate that one. but almost everything I read was 4 or 5 stars, which was super exciting. So the next thing that I listened to was an audiobook from the library, and that was The Sun Is Also a Star by Nicola Yoon. I also gave this one 4 stars. I really enjoyed this story. I kind of knew what it was about, so I had like an idea of what was going to happen in the end, but I did like the way she ended the story. It was super sweet. I loved the interaction between the characters in this book. This book was the closest to making me cry that I have come in a long time. And I'm like an emotional person, but I'm not an emotional reader, if that makes any sense. Like, I don't laugh out loud when I read. I don't cry when I read. Like, I might smile, but I don't like laugh out loud. Like, I'm just kind of there. I don't know. So this book almost making me cry is saying something, because like it was pretty close. The next thing that I read was a ebook that I checked out from the library. I read Carry On by Rainbow Rowell. I gave it 4 stars. I really liked this. I really liked Rainbow Rowell's take on the chosen one trope. It was such a fun story. I am gonna say I almost wrote it off at the very beginning because it felt so much like Harry Potter when I started reading it, and I almost pushed it off and was like, no, I'm not gonna read it. It's too much of a Harry Potter ripoff, but I'm glad I kept going with it. It was a really interesting story. I really liked the relationships in there. I really liked Simon and Baz as characters. They were really fun. And I just thought this was a really good story. I am glad that I stuck with it, and I'm glad that I read it. I really like Rainbow Rowell as a writer. I've read Eleanor and Park, which is sitting over here, and I am planning on reading Fangirl. I think it's in our jar of things to read for book club, although I think now that we're picking things that are under a certain amount of pages, Fangirl might be too long. So I might end up reading that one on my own, but I really enjoy Rainbow Rowell as a writer. She just has a humor to her writing that I really enjoy, and I can't wait to read more things by her. The next thing I read, I went ahead and read our book for book club for June, because we're having our meeting at the beginning of the month this month, and that is Dark Energy by Robinson Wells. I read this book super quickly. I almost read it in a day. I finished the last little bit the next day. I think I had maybe 40 pages left. It's not a very long book. It's like 273 pages. I gave it 4 stars. I thought it was a really interesting take on a sci-fi alien invasion book. I felt like it brought some different aspects to it than what we get most of the time when we read alien books, although I haven't read a ton. You get right into the story right away. It never slowed down. It never got boring for me, which is awesome. It was nice that like the synopsis and like the backstory has already gone by. The alien spaceship has already crash landed, and it's 5 days later when the story starts taking place. So you've already gotten past like anything boring that could have happened. You just automatically dive right into the action, and I really enjoyed that. I don't think this book is very well known. I think I put it in the jar actually, but I don't remember how I came across this book. I don't know if I just saw it somewhere because it said, you know, something I've read, you might be interested in this book. I have no clue. I got it from the Scholastic catalog, but I think I bought it knowing that it was in the jar of our book club books, and I just went ahead and bought it because it was only like $5 or less. So I just went ahead and bought it and saved it because I knew we would get to it eventually. But I really did enjoy it. I haven't read a lot of alien books, or honestly I haven't read a lot of sci-fi, even though I do really enjoy sci-fi. But this book has definitely made me want to read some more. So I think that I'm going to be pulling some sci-fi from my shelves in the next couple months and spending some more time reading some sci-fi. And the last thing that I read for the month, I was so excited to read. I pre-ordered Warstorm, and I read it this month at the very end of the month. And I just love the Red Queen series. I do feel like I wish that I had read the Red Queen series closer to when Warstorm had came out. I read it close to when King's Cage came out, so it's been about a year since I read the whole Red Queen series. I read it all last year, I think. And so I remember when there were parts of it where I was reading this that I was like, who is that? Who are they talking about? And then I had to go and look it up. And then I was like, oh, that's right. That's who that is. But it was hard for me, like, to try to remember all of the characters that are in this book. I mean, this is the 4th book. There's been a lot of characters, and some that just were only in one book or weren't as important as others. I just couldn't remember who they were. When they were speaking of John, I couldn't remember who John was. I had to go and look John up. And then when he comes into play later in the book, I was like, oh, if I had have waited, I would have remembered who he was. But I wanted to know who they were talking about at the time. Or there are things that happened in previous books that I had forgotten that happened until I started reading this one. So I just love the Red Queen series, and I just thought it was so good. I might end up doing a review for this one, but it's really hard because this is the 4th book in a series, and I don't know how much I can talk about it without ruining the book or ruining the series for people. So I might try to do a review for it. If you'd be interested in seeing a review for Warstorm, let me know down in the comments, and if I get some people that are interested, then I might do one. So those are the 8 books that I read for the month of May. Let me know down in the comments what books you read for the month of May, and if you enjoyed this video, please feel free to leave me a like, and if you'd like to see more videos by me, please consider subscribing to my channel, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!